Hello, my name is Bill Edgett, and tonight I have Abdul Lukin with me so he can share his story of what he has gone through during his situation of parental alienation. Abdul, it's been a while since we've chatted, and I'm glad to have you on here. So maybe you could start by giving people a little background about yourself and your history and your story.
Oh, so
Oh, so
let me start a
let me
little
start
bit
a little
about
bit
myself
about myself
first.
first.
So I was born and raised in Antwerp from the Netherlands.
Netherlands. Okay.
For
For
people who don't
people
know
who don't know where that is,
it's in
it's
Europe.
in Europe.
I came
I
here
came here
in
in
2016
2016
with my
with
ex,
my ex,
the mother of
the
my
mother of
child,
my child.
and
And
yeah, so it
yeah,
didn't
so it
go
didn't
well.
go well.
And
And
so at
so
certain
at
point
certain
it
point it
went actually
went
really
actually
bad,
really bad.
and
And
I'm
I'm
happily
happily
separated,
separated,
extremely happily
extremely happily
separated,
separated.
as it was
Because it
very
was very
difficult at the
difficult
end
at the end
of the
of the
relationship.
relationship.
And at a
And at
certain
a
point,
certain point,
I
I
believe
believe
made a
made the
choice,
choice,
and it
and it
was for
was for
everybody's
everybody's
interest
interest
to go back
to go
to
back to
Amsterdam,
Amsterdam.
but I did
But
that
it did
just
it just
temporary
temporary
because my
because
daughter
my
was here.
daughter was here.
So I hear a
So
lot
I
of
hear a lot of
echo.
echo.
That's why there is
That's
a
why
lot of
there is a
breaks.
lot of breaks.
Anyways,
Anyways,
so
so
before I
before
went
I
back
went back
to the
to the
Netherlands,
Netherlands,
I made
I made
sure with my
sure with
ex
my
I had a
ex I had a
specific agreement.
specific agreement.
And the
And the
agreement was
agreement was
that I would
that
see
I
my
would see
daughter
my
as much
daughter
as
as much as
possible,
possible,
preferably
preferably
daily.
daily.
And if there
And if there
anything was
anything
going
was going
on,
on,
that we
that we
discussed this.
discussed this,
We were
we
in
were
a
in a
communicative
relationship,
relationship, so we were
so we
still
were still
talking.
talking. So you were both still talking to one another.
No,
It wasn't too
no,
bad
no.
at the time, and you're both in
Yeah.
agreement to share the custody, let the child be seen by both parents, and kind of let you each go your separate way and still have communication.
Not fully,
Not
exactly.
fully, exactly. Okay.
So I was trying to make a separation agreement, and I tried to write things down.
Okay.
So for everybody who's listening, make sure you have everything in place before you leave the country or make a big decision in your life. Because I just wanted things to work. And if I should have known, because I would look back in relationship. I know she just didn't keep a word, promise, and arrangement. That was one of our biggest issues in our relationship. Especially because I was in a more vulnerable position as I came into PR. So I didn't have full citizenship. And when I came in, I was not able to work whatever. So I couldn't do anything. So she was mostly responsible. So I put myself with good faith in a very difficult situation. But you do a lot of things when you're in love.
Well, again, your story is not much different than anyone else that would be paying attention here. You act in good faith. You put your faith and trust in another person, and that other person does not have the same moral values that you do, and situations usually do not end well for the person with it that is in the imbalance of the power in the relationship.
And when we separated in Canada before I went to work, I made sure I didn't discuss things that I knew about her that she did. And I was kind of walking on eggs because I knew what kind of person I was dealing with. As soon as I brought it up out of fear, because she does more the thing out of fear, she has a form of anxiety. She would just run away with my child, as she's done that before. So Dave separation, she literally took our daughter out of the province, took the car, and I didn't know what's going on. So basically, I tried when I noticed it, I tried to contact her. And hours later, she called me back and said, okay, please don't follow me. I'm going to New Brunswick while I was in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
I said, okay, fine. I put a lot of effort in relationship, and I did my very best. I was like, okay, I'm done. No stress. And so I told her, okay, let's fix it. Let's fix how we're going to do this without her. So I was happily separated. And to highlight, I wanted to leave twice before myself, but it didn't work out, and I tried to stay for our daughter.
Okay, and how old was your daughter at that time?
She was 1.5.
1.5. Okay, so she was still very young.
Yes. So I did not find it worth it. Personally, I didn't find it worth it to fight for relationship anymore. Nor did I find it worth to argue and get in discussions with. Because in the last year of our relationship, I communicated everything clearly. I repeated things. We made certain agreements. I introduced like a family discussion to get everything on one point. And at a certain point, I basically found out she was just, how do you call that? She was basically gaslighting. So every time I come to an understanding, bring something positive, she would make a big drama out of it or go off topic. So she would sabotage it.
Okay, and for people who don't know what the term gaslighting means, it is someone is basically that they're disregarding the reality of the situation that you are presenting in them, and they are telling you that you are crazy for recognizing the abuse that you're suffering from and the abusive situation. And this is consistent with intimate partner violence situations where one person will it's part of the relationship cycle that you have.
They make their own reality basically.
Yes.
So every time you do something, they say, oh no, it happened different. So when we went to our arrangement, he said, oh no, it's not what we said, it's what we agreed upon. So I said, okay. Here's a notebook. Let's write things down. Sometimes you write down, I write it down, and this is going to be our arrangement. And she agreed with it. But then when I started writing it down, she said, okay, but what if this happens? What if that happens? I say, okay, well, in specific situations, let's call it 1A, B, A, C, A, D, and D is an exception. But even with that didn't work.
Yes, so then there's just no end.
Yeah. And then later, she said, oh no, that's not exactly what I agree about. Okay, then you write it down. And then even that is no, that's not what we mentioned. And then I proposed, you know what, let's record it. So you cannot say we said things differently. And then she refused, of course.
Yes, because they create the stories that go.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I always thought in the beginning she just didn't understand me. And didn't understand situation. So I keep repeating myself. And the bulb went up. And I understand actually for the year that I'm trying to come to an understanding. And to come to an arrangement. She's actually doing it on purpose. And the way I found out is we went to daycare. And at daycare, for the viewers, if I stop a lot because of the echo, I'm trying to get it away out of the way. So when we went to daycare, and we spoke with the lady over there.
Mm-hmm.
And she was speaking. The daycare did not want her to breastfeed our daughter at daycare because it takes a lot of time. And surprisingly, she just agreed upon everything with her. However, we had an arrangement that we still keep the breastfeed. So I was a little bit disturbed with what happened there, but she stopped me. Stopped me from talking then. So she was the only person talking. So we went outside, and then I said to her, paraphrasing it, why do you agree upon that she doesn't want her depression when we do? And she said, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna breastfeed it. And at that moment, ping, I was like, all the conversations I with her, all the family meeting, it didn't matter. She was just whatever she wants.
Yes, she'll agree to the terms, so you don't have to argue, and she'll do what she wants anyway. And then when you recognize that this is happening, that's where the gaslighting begins. Like you said, it's the complete process.
To be fair, a lot of women do this as an coping or defense mechanism if they don't want to deal with it. And sometimes it's difficult to know what the truth is. But people do it generally if they just don't want to handle things. But she was special. And the reason I would say special is because she was specially raised up. So my ex as a child got everything she wanted.
Okay.
She was always right. Her parents, her brother and herself all testified. Said it was not in court. She was told. He said, "Oh, it's not a bad thing. That's not fault." So her brother in a social interaction seems very submissive, and she seems to be a little bit more dominant because as a child she always get her way about her brother. So she's very competitive and does whatever she can to get what she wants. And it's actually very bad living with someone like that.
It sounds like you're describing her childhood, where she would have been maybe treated like the golden child and her brother as the scapegoat, which would explain the difference in their behaviors when they were in public or around one another.
Yes, that's exactly how they see it. Academically and socially, that's what you hear.
Okay.
So anyways, so in the family, the people would say, "Oh, Abdel, you're the only one that accepts. She accepts no, but she never accepts my no. If I was saying, okay, this is my border, don't do it. No. She would just find around it and manipulate things. And that's what I have to deal with in court. So far, that I have some evidence that I cannot share here because it's still an ongoing process.
Okay. So how long has this been going on, this process? So your daughter was a year and a half when this began. How old is your daughter now?
5.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And let's be fair too. It's not all her fault. I took some distances because it's extremely painful to have to repeat things.
Okay.
And you do your best and you being maliciously blocked, negated or manipulated through court.
Okay, Abdul, could you try to pull off your headphones? Or people are saying the echo is really bad, so maybe we can try disconnecting it and see if...
Is it better?
Yes, I hear you much better now.
Okay. So what do you want to hear? I just started about. Yeah, so I made an arrangement going back to the Netherlands. She took 2 weeks. Took her 2 weeks to break the arrangement. Playing a game. And 4 months. Tried to reason with her. I have to my daughter when I was in the and then I basically took in November.
Okay, Abdul, you're still
echoing.
Yeah, you're people are saying we're still getting a lot of echo and feedback from you. Do you have
Is this better? No.
I hear you very clearly.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Billy says,
Billy
Maya,
says,
close
Maya,
the
close
echo.
the echo.
Huh?
Huh?
Don't blame me
now.
Oh, turn off phone. Facebook user said turn off phone.
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 I
don't have a phone.
On. I just use a
use
laptop.
a laptop.
If anybody has any ideas how to improve this, I'm all ears.
Turn off computer sound.
Computer
sound?
Yes.
But I won't hear you then. Okay, do you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I don't hear you.
I don't hear you.
I don't know
I don't know
how
how
that's
that's going to work.
Do you have a microphone or is...
No.
No.
I just put the sound very low.
Okay.
But I still hear the echo.
echo.
You know what?
Maybe
I need to put my microphone lower.
Yes, that might help.
Microphone. Well, sorry guys.
Bear with me.
Yeah, maybe if you turn your volume down and your microphone, so it would cut down on the feedback.
Yeah, I think it's the speaker going to the
microphone.
Microphone. What is the microphone sound? I don't see where you can put the microphone down. No, it doesn't show. Yeah, guys, sorry, I cannot fix the echo. I know it's kind of disruptive and a bit annoying. I cannot fix it anytime soon. What we can do, though, we can minimize how long I talk because it's not very pleasant. I understand. Okay, and Bill is gone. Hey, Bill.
There, how's it working now?
I don't hear any echo. Do you hear any echo?
I'm not hearing an echo.
Okay, well, great. So let's move on.
Changed it. I guess I just had to reboot there. That's awesome.
That's
excellent. So sorry, folks, for the echo. I hope we've got that taken care of. Excellent. So, Abdul, yes, continue with what you were talking about. This began when your daughter was 1.5 years, and how old did you say she is now?
5.
5 years old. Wow. So, yeah. Well, how often do you see your daughter? Do you see her on a regular basis, or
barely? Like last time I contacted my ex on 23 September through text because he doesn't want to use phone. She refused to do that. And by the way, she refused. Since I was in the Netherlands, he literally said, I'm never going to speak with you again. You're not able to see your daughter. Go call a lawyer. If you say that in court as a man, who's going to believe you? Who's going to believe you? Yeah. And it doesn't even matter. So anyways, I contacted her. I got a reply like 2 weeks. I don't know if it's 2 weeks or a week and a half later. She told me, oh, it's not possible. She asked me, are you in St. John or in Toronto? And she said, I'll email you. I said, no, just contact here. I haven't even received any email. And that's not safe for me because he manipulates basically the email, but I'm not going into depth regarding that. And I contacted her lawyer, I think 1.5 weeks ago to see my daughter in the end of December. I've never seen any holidays with my daughter, ever. Like, ever since birth. Because even then we had arrangement, she would just go away to her family and not spend any family time with us. And that wasn't kind of an issue with me. Because especially when you have a new child and you don't have a lot of time, you want some time with each other as parents as much as you can, especially when you're very busy with the baby. Anyways, so yeah. So my relationship right now with my daughter is almost non-existent. I saw her
few times in May. So
Yes.
basically, in May, she still lived here. Now I understood she has here means GTA, because I moved to GTA to be closer to my daughter. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently, a few months later, she was out of GTA without me knowing. When took our daughter, of course, to a different process, because she got the legal right to do that now. Yeah, so that's what's going on.
Okay.
And if I can give any advice to other fathers,
That would be great.
it was for me extremely difficult in the beginning, and I don't know if it's possible for me to do it any different. But if you can, you should. Because in the beginning, when I started this process, so I came back. So I came from Amsterdam to St. John when I noticed she's playing games and I'm barely seeing my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to St. John to try to go to court, and then basically, so let me tell you this story so you'll understand it. So basically, when I noticed she was playing game, she communicated to me, said, "Oh, I'm gonna go in February to set up a separation agreement." Really a nonsense. I don't know if you can swear here, but it was nonsense, because I've been waiting to fix and separation agreement very early on. The only reason she did February, because it would have been 6 months that I'm outside the country by then if I was still in Amsterdam, and would lose my PR and any rights on my child.
Okay.
So,
So, and again, you wouldn't have known that until after it
later.
had already happened. So this was done
Yes,
with that knowledge.
yes, and she basically that's why she barely didn't take me serious when I was in the Netherlands. She said, "Oh, wherever he's there, da da da." Luckily, I had a small financial buffer I made for myself when I noticed the relationship was going bad, and I felt really trapped and basically in a social prison, because I was put in an environment where I basically cannot work, nor did I find any intimacy around the time. And you would think, okay, why is he talking about that? Well, my ex is a French literature professor,
Mm-hmm.
and the last few years was very a big thing in in uh, French literature and in French too is feminism, gender studies, and the othering. Those are big topics. My ex-wife was never really a feminist, but she's starting to go through that after we had a child, and we already had some difficulties, and there was just another layer of difficulty in our relationship. She started reading a lot of feminist books, and she was trying to apply for other jobs where some feminist studies were being given. So I saw literally my ex going to feminist blogs, websites, how to emasculate men, and the two things that were discussed there is to put in an environment where you cannot excel, where you cannot have a job, and to take away intimacy from a man.
Okay.
And
Facebook user has just put the comment, "Women in Crisis." Remember that. I'm not sure if it's a book or a group or a page, but it sounds like that might be where a lot of these behaviors come from that you're describing.
okay, I don't know what it is.
It's an agency.
Okay. So I noticed that, and so almost at the end of the relationship, there was one moment I even asked my ex, "What do I need to do personally, me? What do I need to do to save this marriage?"
Mm.
And her reaction was literally to turn around and get effed in the back. And I'm paraphrasing here because I don't know if it's okay for Facebook. And then I told her, you know exactly what my needs are what I'm looking for. So I walked away out of the balcony. And by the way, we were in a balcony where our neighbors were present, and they could basically just hear this. So, and she was loud. So when I walked back inside to the living room, she came out of it and she told me, "All I'm gonna tell you is I'm a feminist." So that is one of my experiences with her.
Yes.
But anyways, so I came back. So so when I came back to, so I contacted you in November because
Yep.
I didn't know what to do. I barely had any contact with my child. Online website said basically, I'm all over the place with my stories. So
That's okay.
Anyway, just go ahead, Bill.
That's how we live. That's how we live once this process starts. I know what it's like. So you go wherever you are.
So basically, I contacted you in November because I barely had any contact with my daughter. It was not only time difference was difficult, but I noticed she was doing things on purpose, like 15 minutes. I'm waiting like 4 days now, and 15 minutes before time, she would just cut off the communication. I would say, "Oh, I'm canceling." So initially, we would see my daughter through video chat like almost daily, and then she unilaterally decided it's just going to be 2 days in a week for 50 minutes. And I told her this is not reasonable. Now, I'm not expecting to see a 2-year-old daughter for an hour, 30 minutes, but within reason. And she would actually train my daughter to hang up. And she would actually hang up herself if it was just 15 minutes. And even saw my daughter a few times hitting her grandmother or her because she still want to interact with me.
Yes.
So, and I notice even now there's some specific ways how she does that. So yeah, that was terrible. So when I came here, back to Canada. I came here with the intention to go to court and show proofs, some kind of proofs, because a lot of them were not there anymore. Again, that's a different story. To court, and I need access to my daughter. However, there was like a light or a fire festival at New Brunswick Square in St. John. And I was walking there and I was looking for a place to eat. So I was already in St. John, but I did not let her know that I am there because I was prepping for court. Plus, I don't want her to run away, maybe to another country or another province, and I don't see my daughter again. So I passed by Vegelution and literally saw my daughter there. And when I saw my daughter, literally tears came down my cheek. And the only thing I wanted to do is run inside and just hug her.
Yes.
But I have self-control, so I did not do that. And I saw her there with her, playing on the ground with her car, and her grandmother was there too. So I just walked away, took my distance, and she already blocked me on Facebook and stuff because I tried to reach out to her. And she pretends, because I contacted her too much, but the reality is because I caught her going to an African festival instead of following her an arrangement to see my daughter. So I made a new account. And she's using this against me. I made a new Facebook account with a different name and tried to reach out to her. Can I see my daughter? I got no response, so I just let it go. However, so initially I wanted to have the 2 weeks of patience and then go to court. But when I saw my daughter, my fire and the warmth and love just lit up, and I just wanted to hold her and see her.
Yes.
So the next day, I was very excited. I said, I should just go and see my daughter. Yeah. She said, that's what's going through my head. She told me, whatever you hear, you're welcome to see your daughter while I'm here. So about a half hour before, I texted and emailed her and her grandmother as well, because I knew her grandmother was there at the house. So I went to the house, and she's telling court, minutes before you arrived to my house, I got a text. I didn't even know if he was here in the country. Well, I know she suspected that because when I had video chat with her a few times still, she would I could see her while I had video chat. I could see her, my ex, looking, is this a familiar place? Is it the same place? Is he at a different spot? She was really looking, where am I? But anyways, so I went there. Door was open. Front door was open. I went inside, knocked on the door. The address said, I'm here to see my daughter, but I like to see my daughter. And I'm still waiting for the police report about this incident, and I'm filing for the third time information under Information Privacy Act. I did that to get some information from this. Not that it's very helpful, because a lot of police reports, they just take it over whatever the caller says to the police. They don't do an objective neutral police report.
Well, I remember you talking to me about this, and when it happened, and you spoke with two different female officers, and you had two different experiences with each one.
Yeah.
So let's start there. You arrived at your ex's home in the hopes of seeing your daughter.
Yeah,
you informed her ahead of time you were coming. And you just
half an hour. Yeah.
Yep. So you didn't just pop in. It wasn't just a random stop by. You let them know, and you were there to see your daughter.
Yeah.
And what happened from there?
Well, I knocked first on the door. I said, I want to see my daughter. Then I knocked on the door, and so I heard literally her mother talking to my daughter, say, "Get out of the way, let your mom get out of the shower." And she says something different in family court, and that's why I'm interested, if you can find it. But anyway, I shouldn't say too much because it's still ongoing. But from the other side, I don't care as much either as well anymore. Not much, actually, sadly. But anyway, so I knocked there. Then I knocked again. And I said, listen, if you don't want me here, just tell me you don't want me here. I got no answer. So what I did, I walked away. So I went outside the building. There is a rock. It's basically in Milledgeville. So I sat on a rock, called the police. Said, hey, listen, I came here from the Netherlands. I called you before from the Netherlands when I had some issues. Now I'm here. I'm trying to see my daughter. I knocked on the door. I'm sitting outside and waiting if I can see my daughter. Police was like, okay, just stay there. Don't do anything. I'm just sitting down here. And then they came. So the police, first lady who came over.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, by the way, I sent it in a text or an email as well. Well, I'm here all the way from Amsterdam and you don't let me go in. I'll call the police. I should not have said that. I said that, and because of that, she called the police too. But I'm a person who is basically an open book in a relationship, and honestly, that is very stupid. It's handy, it's nice, you're a nice guy, but it's stupid.
The people do the same thing. You're trying to act in good faith and do the right thing. You just wanted to see your daughter. You're being denied access, and instead of breaking the door in and saying, taking your daughter, saying, I want to see my daughter and I'm going to, you did what any reasonable person would do. You called the police. That's what you're supposed to do in these situations.
Yeah, so the police officer came and saw me sitting very calmly on the big rock or stone outside, or whatever you call it, because it's a thing on the floor, on the ground. So I explained that. I said, yeah, I came here from the Netherlands, just try to see my daughter. If I can just see my daughter, I'll be a happy man. She said, okay, I'm going to see what I can do. So she went upstairs. And then another officer came. And this officer literally, I'm not saying any names, this officer lied on the stand and lied to the judge, and I have proof of it. I haven't done anything specifically quite yet, but I should, because some stuff is happening very negatively towards me, because I'm the big bad guy now. You always are as a man. If you make a woman cry, even if it's her fault, you're the big bad guy. You're always going to look bad, even if you're right. So it doesn't matter. So anyways, so another officer came, and she had like this vicious look, a hate look in her eyes, and said, what are you doing here? Started questioning, what did you do? What are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. I said, calm down. There's another officer. I explained everything. She's upset. She kept asking me, blah, blah, blah. And I asked, apparently she called this officer. So the officer came downstairs and said, okay, you can see her, da, da, da. So I went upstairs with both officers to see my daughter. And while I was going to the stairs upstairs, the first officer, the lady, told me, just letting you know, she's in her bedroom. She really didn't want you to see your daughter at all, but she just, she let me. Now, she's unaware that this police officer actually told me this. And that's how I know she was actually in the house, next to the conversation I heard. And there's a third incident actually that happened that I know she was in the house. I don't care about it, but she lied in court about this. She said, oh, I'm at work.
Okay, so let me try to follow this along. You showed up.
Yeah.
You gave them notice you were showing up, that you wanted to see your daughter, which is not an unreasonable request. You were denied access to the property, so you stepped away into a public area and made a call to the police.
Yeah.
And the first female officer that arrived was very sympathetic to your situation and tried to be helpful.
She was neutral. She was nice and neutral. She was not sympathetic, but just nice and neutral. Yeah.
Well, that's even better, because the police, they shouldn't be taking sides in these matters. They should be there as a neutral party and trying to resolve conflict. And I don't think a father wanting to see his daughter is an unreasonable request, and I think she tried to help you with that request.
Yes.
Okay, so then the other officer who took a call from your ex, she came, and what was her? You already said her demeanor was very different. Instead of being neutral, it was.
I can literally see hate in her face. And later, when she called me a police officer, I saw the same thing. I saw if someone has hate in your face, you're gonna be a bit more reserved communicating to the person, because if you're already put in a frame of hate, everything you're gonna say is gonna come out negative. It's like the same if you're in a frame of love. Everything something does when your person is love is cute. Now imagine this in a time of if a woman is in love with a guy, and the guy, let me say something crazy, farts. Oh, that's a cute fart. If it's anybody else, ew, disgusting. It's just the frame you're in. It's a frame of mind. So it's totally different. So if I already see someone who has hate towards me, where they don't know me, and they ask information from me, they already made a decision in their mind. So whatever I say, they're not going to believe it and make it negative. And that's my experience with her.
Okay. All right, Abdul, we've got a Facebook user who is saying hello from Louisville, Kentucky. For me, I am in New Brunswick, Canada, and Abdul, you are in.
I'm now in Toronto. I used to be in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada as well. I'm now in the Toronto area.
Okay, and here's another Facebook user, CT. That would be for Connecticut. Wow, it's another person from Guelph, Ontario. This is good. So, you're sharing your story.
Yeah.
And other people are listening, and they're sending lots of comments, and all the comments, they seem to be agreeing with or recognizing what you have gone through, and they have gone through themselves. And that's why I've done this program and have people like you on, so you can share your experiences to let other people know they're not alone. You're so isolated. Like you said, in your relationship, you were very isolated. You felt alone, and you felt like you had no power and control. And these are the tactics and tools used by manipulators to control their partner and control the situation. And we need to have recognition that this happens in these relationships, so that these people can get help instead of being blamed for what they're going through, because the other party lies about what the situation really is.
Yeah. And I would say with that, guys, be careful if you're going with someone who is spoiled. I'm just going to say it, who is actually a feminist, and who the family is too much involved, because it will make your life a bit difficult in a relationship, especially later on. Now, a lot of women will complain about that men abuse power. I've never seen women abuse power so much, because in the end, if you're let me say it in a different way, if you as a man are the breadwinner, earn the most money, you're going to consider your family, and a lot of times you consider the family unit more than yourself individually, and you put yourself aside for the better good. And if both of you guys doing that, the man and woman, you're both doing that for the best interest of your relationship, that's a healthy relationship. And of course, there's some issues in a relationship that everybody has, because no relationship is perfect. But if someone is unwilling to find middle grounds for it, is unwilling to work things out, or only care about their own benefit, it's almost they take their own desires as God.
Yes. Okay. There is a question here by a Facebook user. Why did CAS give her the child? Now, I'm assuming this person is from Ontario, because that's where CAS is. We have a different agency here in New Brunswick, and I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I didn't get that part of the relationship. Well, first of all, the child is very young, so I understand why they give the child more to the woman, especially when they're very young. However, she started in family court, accusing me also of kinds of false accusations, and when I actually went to her house, I found out later she was already making up stories and stuff at the police. So there was already a police report for me. And basically, you have to understand it from a judge perspective. If a person accuses the other person of being A, B, C, D, A, Z, even if it's not true, if it starts like that already, they're gonna be precautious. So they're gonna be careful about that. And so plus he's the person who has more money than me.
Okay, I'd like to take over here for a second and share with you my experience. I was in court for the past 3 days, and I informed the judge that was in front of us that my custody and access had been varied on numerous occasions based on false allegations, which I felt was a violation of my National Charter of Rights and Freedoms to be treated as if innocent until proven guilty. And his response was that this is family court and your freedoms don't exist here. So basically what he told me was that the protection of the child is more important. So as long as someone made allegations or a story that a child was in danger, then you lost your rights, and they were going to act on these allegations instead of preserving your rights, which in many cases they end up leaving the child or children with the abusive party because they've been told a story of fear. They've put in a position to where they feel they can save this child if they act, and this child will be in harm if they don't. So instead of following the evidence, the rules of court, or the National Charter of Rights and Freedoms, they throw everything out the window, and it's called cognitive dissonance. And there are other people who are
so let's be fair here too, Bill. My ex was never abusive to our daughter.
Okay.
There was some form of abuse towards me, and she claims there was vice versa. I don't believe that, and that's basically a discussion that you can have regarding that. Plus, the only thing I would say, there was sometimes a form of neglect that I saw from her towards the child, and there are other things that happen in a relationship too. And I see this; she did this as a big smoke screen, so she doesn't. The judge are not going to hear the stories that I have experienced with her. So in that case, she wins custody a bit earlier. And what you guys need to understand too, for all the fathers who are in the beginning stage of this, if the child is getting used to stay mostly with her mother, she's most likely going to win the case of custody. If you at the beginning already don't have much, you need to fight really hard to get that as fast as possible. I was patient and I just was stupid. You have to get as much time early possible, because if you don't, most judges are not going to change a lot because they don't want to change a lot for the daughter. So you need to get time as much as possible. If you as a dad don't get as much time with you, you're most likely not going to win anything.
And you have you said you were stupid, and it's not that you were stupid. You had faith in the system that they would recognize the truth of the situation and then not deny you access to your child, when really that is the most common thing that happens. And it's because people they sit back, like myself. I sat back for years thinking that somebody's eventually going to recognize and see the truth, and I'm no longer going to be in fear of losing or not seeing my children. And instead, it's 7 years later for me, and the application for sole primary custody of the children and me to have visitation on the weekend was just made to court this week. And neither one of us have been abusive to the other, as acknowledged by both parties in court. But that's the story that's been created, the narrative that's been created. Adversarial system, the side has been chosen, and they just want to maintain the status quo. Like you said, the longer you go without seeing your child, or that's what the situation is, the more likely that is to become the norm.
Even if it's because in the end they do the best interest for the child, and it should be. Let's be fair; it should be the best interest for the child. So if the child, in the beginning years of the relationship, in those especially early stages, in my case, if they don't spend as much time with you but with other people, they're not going to bond as much. And that's what definitely what they're going to look at. And guys, if you, for men and for women, if you're thinking, oh, the truth will come out in court and then things will change, that's not going to happen. Even if truth come out, even if truth will come out, it's not going to benefit you because time has been wasted. Child has been bonding with someone else, or with her mom, or with her dad more, and it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. If they lied 3 years ago and played games a few years later, and because of that the judge made a decision a few years later, it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. So if you have any proof, keep that and take action. See your child as much as you can, so those things won't happen. I see myself as a hopeless romantic. I still had some hope that she will turn around, be honest, and be fair with that. But till now, I still see some games being played. She can basically still do whatever she wants, and she can get away with it. She can lie in court. She can lie in an affidavit. She can do whatever. And you know what happens too. And I noticed that with after a while, people definitely gonna believe stories and make up things. They're gonna thicken up stories, make things worse than it actually is, because you know how if someone tells a story and tells a story later, they change a lot to make the story look nicer or sound nicer. So so if you have any proof, save it.
Yes. You need to start documenting the process, the alienation process, as soon as possible, before the status quo is maintained or is created, and then that's all they're going to look is to maintain that. They don't want to deal with you anymore. They already made a decision on this matter. They think they've made the right decision in their arrogance and their ignorance, because the judge, again, I was in front of this week, said the courts are very capable of dealing with situations of abuse. The problem is they don't know which party is the abuser in my situation, and they continue to abuse me, and subsequently my children are also suffering from that abuse.
Yeah, and for guys, if you have any if you're doubting, should you go to court yourself or have a lawyer? We should get a legal lawyer, a cheap lawyer, or a lawyer that's been provided by the government or by the justice system. Don't pay for a lawyer. And why I'm saying this? Because legal lawyers, cheap lawyers, basically make deals with the other parties. It happens all the times. All the time it happens that they make deals, because see it in this way. Legal lawyer found out in St. John, New Brunswick, a few years back, they get basically $90 an hour to represent you at court, to do their work for you at court. Why should they put the time for you for $90 an hour when they can get $100 sometimes an hour for other people? So the lawyers work with each other, make deals with each other, and it's a business. They have a business. So
you're right. It's not. You and I have been documenting. You've been helping me document your situation, and I've been documenting and helping other people document theirs. And you're right. It's the system is very abusive, and it is not set up to serve the children's best interest or parents' best interest. It's there to almost. It seems like it's incredibly built to help destroy families and continue the litigation and fight over the children to drain the families of all their resources and their money. Because when you go to court, everybody there is getting paid except the applicant and the respondent, the two people that are there. And usually when there's two parties in court over a custody dispute, that's what it's about, is custody dispute. And one party has the need to have control over the situation, and they will do anything to maintain that control, which is why these scenarios go on forever.
Yeah, and see it in this way too. Like, why do you need to go to court? Why do you need to go to court? Why do you need to do um, who has what kind of interest? Because in reality, for a divorce or for things, you can get mediation. You can come to an arrangement. Um, you come to an arrangement for mediation, but it's mostly because one party wants something more of the other that the other doesn't want to give. So the I would say, if possible, and you still have a good relationship with your ex, do that through mediation and avoid going to court.
I
Because it
agree.
takes
And
a
if
lot of money, it takes a lot of time, a lot of frustration. And going to court, is it really the best interest for the child?
it's not, it's the worst place I've ever been in my life.
So it's different. However, you can only do that when your relationship wasn't that bad and you're still in talking terms and you were in that patient relationship until it got really bad. And I'm not promoting divorce because I do believe in marriage.
Hmm.
But be aware of who you marry, be aware who you deal with, protect yourself. Because I was um, I was casually doing this, saying this, whatever, and I'm not very afraid in life, and it got to me. I'm not very afraid that I'm dealing with the consequences now.
Yes. So
And yeah,
it's funny you're mentioning that, to be aware of these. What are some of the things to be aware of that you would
in
say,
in a,
if you're going to get into a relationship, what are signs to look for that might be red flags that this might not be a good person to get into a relationship with?
this modern relationship red flags theme. I hear this all the time. Red flags. Um, why you want someone? I have a lot of ideas. So first of all, and this is sometimes very difficult to find out. I find personally, if a person has a lot of relationship or a lot of sexual activity with other people, if they have that a lot, I would stay away from it because it's easier for them to move from one to another, so they feel less detached with the person they love or have as a partner.
And that there would relate to the generational pathology of like how you recognized the behavior of
Yeah,
your ex and her brother, which if one of the parents were alienating in
and
that
that did
relationship
happen with
when they
them.
were growing up,
Yeah,
that would explain the different behaviors between the two siblings, because one was treated as the golden child, one was treated as the scapegoat. And
yeah.
again, they grew up in this type of dysfunction. So when they grow up, they see that as a normal family relationship system and play it out and end up creating trauma for their family.
Yeah, there is a layer of their one of the her parents got divorced too, and I would say, if you can get with someone who actually still has parents who are together, but it's almost impossible nowadays. And actually, one of her parents did get the blame for the divorce, and the children believe that. So you cannot ever tell your children to your children that you blame the other parent, because that's gonna stay with them. So, and what I talked before of the partners, I think in urban terms over the internet they call it body count, how much body count someone has. Um, Fortunately, almost nobody is a virgin when they get married, and people get married in later age too. So I don't see that really happening. I think the most successful relationship are people who are basically mostly. And who am I to tell? I came with a great relationship. But I've seen people who are very successful and they're still with their first spouse ever since teenage years. Or there was someone who just had two or three partners, that's it. Um, I would say that. And for other stuff to watch out for, if someone is spoiled, if you notice someone always get what they want, da 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 da, and and they're very competitive with things, you don't want someone who's competitive with everything in a relationship. It's a balance between men and women, and sometimes when someone pulls, you have to let go. You know what I mean? I think there's an old Iranian philosopher. He said, in a relationship is like a thin rope. If someone pulls, the other need to let go a little bit, otherwise it breaks. And when you pull, the other one need to let go. Because if you both pull, it will break and you have a big conflict. So
again, I agree. There needs to be equality within the relationship. If there is a power imbalance, that there is usually because one party needs to control. And while the relationship may have started off with love bombing, and that person, that's what they do.
Yeah, she was all about control.
I remember Johnny Depp explaining about Amber Heard, and he said he'd come home, and Amber would tell him to put his feet up on the couch or the chair or whatever thing, and she'd remove his boots and rub his feet. And he said he'd never experienced that before. And he said he came home one day and he removed his boots himself and he put his feet up on the chair. And she walked in and she goes, "What are you doing?" And he looked at her. He's like, "What?" She goes, "That's my job." So that would have been.
I wish I had a wife like that.
but that there is so typical of these types of relationships and how they're treated. Like that's the beginning of the discard phase, where they start to, discredit you and beat you down instead of building you up and saying how great you are. You're doing this wrong, and that's where the controlling aspect comes in, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's something that happens over a prolonged period of time, and that's why it's so hard to recognize.
I think with me it was very difficult to recognize because she does it very secretively, very manipulative, and most guys won't notice it with girls. Now, if I interact now with girls, I can recognize a lot of behavior because I've experienced a lot with my ex. So if someone does something now as a girl, I can recognize quickly what they try to achieve.
Yeah.
And but be fair too, because some things we as men see as manipulative, while for a woman it's just influence. It's normal. So there is a certain level that's okay. No, there's a certain level that's okay, but if it goes too far, it's manipulative.
I agree. Men and women deal with
things differently. Yeah.
Yes, they do. And Jordan Peterson spoke about that. He said, if you got 10 guys in a room and 2 guys don't like each other, then they'll confront one another.
Yeah.
And then the situation will be resolved. He said, if you got 10 women in a room and 2 women don't like each other, one woman will go around to the other 8 women in the room and try to turn them against the one they don't like.
Wow.
So there's no conflict. It's triangulation. They try to align everyone with their story, what they want to believe, to join with them. So
and people who are nasty in family court, we use family services, we use child services, we use the police, we use the court, use whatever they can to come with fake stories and go with crocodile tears and show fake proof to get what they want, especially if they are from, especially if, I don't want to say this word, so I'm not going to say it online, especially if they have a specific kind of behavior that is very negative. Because if they fear or see a risk, things could not get their way, they will act to make sure things are manipulated in a way that goes their way.
Yes, and that's again, that's the course of controlling behavior in that aspect. It's been recognized for years, but society has just allowed this behavior to become acceptable. There's many social experiments where you see a couple go out in public and the guy starts yelling at the woman and he gets tackled almost immediately. And then the same couple will go to another part of the city and the woman starts yelling at the man, hitting him, throwing her purse at him, kicking him, knocking him down. And people will stop, laugh, and take their phones out and record. Yeah. So this has become socially acceptable for women to abuse men publicly and for it to be a spectacle, to be laughed at. This is abuse.
Yeah, to be honest, I see this here in Canada. I see this more than where I'm from the Netherlands, because here even I see men being ridiculed in commercials, in movies, in series. They're undermining the man as being the man. if you see this daily as a child or even as a woman, how much are you going to respect your brother or your father or your husband?
Yeah.
So, the amount I see it here, and actually the first year I was kind of shocked. I used to live in Thunder Bay, in Northern Ontario, first few years, and I saw a few women how they talked or treated their husband, and I said back to Max, "Wow, like how she treat that. For me, that would not really be acceptable." And she reacted, "Oh, that's normal." I was like, so for me, that was that very weird to see, and I believe that's in North America a little bit more than in Europe.
Yes.
But that's a difference. That's a really a different story, and I'm very conscious of actually the story you tell me, because I'm in a relationship, and sometimes I argue or discuss. I prefer not to argue, but sometimes you end up in an argumentation with your spouse, and when you end up in argumentation and you're in public, and if she's gonna feel bad or she's gonna cry because she's hurting a little bit, and you both hurt, she's gonna cry a little bit, and you're not happy as well, but as a man you don't cry as fast, then honestly, I don't want to walk next to my spouse, because everybody would look at me and blame, "Oh, he made this poor girl cry." What if it wasn't my mistake?
Yeah, I agree. It's the society has changed, and it's allowing.
It's his mistake. What did you do to her, bad guy?
So, Abdul, I'd like to thank you for coming on tonight. You didn't have much notice. I know you contacted me a month or so ago saying you'd like to be on, and I've been very busy, and I'm so happy that you were able to come on tonight and share your experiences. We've had lots of people commenting. I don't like to disparage women because women also suffer from alienation, and they suffer just as much as men do, and they suffer the same effects. When you talk about who gets custody more in North America, it's almost exclusively single mothers that get custody over single fathers. So there is a huge discrepancy there, and that is one problem. And having men and women argue about alienation, which affects both men and women equally, takes away from the real problem with alienation, is that the children are suffering from this, and they're the innocent victims of this abuse. And again, I'd like to just say thank you for coming on tonight. You look great. You look like you're doing well, and I'm glad to hear from you again. And I hope things really work out for you, and I hope you get some more time with your daughter.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and appreciate the time to ask. Feel free, if you want anything in the future, let me know. And guys, if I didn't really look at any comments, because I was really concentrating on the conversation. But if you want to ask me any questions, just put a comment and I'll react on them. And yeah, for everybody who is still in a relationship or has some issues, if you think your marriage is difficult, divorce is even more difficult. So if you can make it, you can make it. Don't ever give up.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
But it cannot become toxic, and if it becomes toxic, professional help is needed. And I think for the best of everybody, and especially if children are involved, think about your children. What do you want your children to learn? What do you want to get out of it? What kind of influence do you have on your children? Because in the end, we all want the best for our children. And sometimes for dads or for mothers, sometimes it's best to leave your child a little bit alone for the interest of the child. And sometimes it's best to fight for your children. So you have to weigh that carefully, what is in the best interest of the child.
All right. Thank you for that. And again, I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck with your situation, Abdul.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Good night.